Hello, I am Ice Beast, and welcome to the Hearts of Iron 4, prelude, prologue, before the game. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. The question here is, what do you guys want to see me play? Now, first I'll tell you, ignore this Austrian game. I'll tell you that I have played Hearts of Iron 4. I have done decently well. So here are the standard countries. And I will tell you right away, we will not be playing as the United States. The United States is an interesting country. At first, I've already played at them, which is one of the reasons I'm not going to play with them. The second reason is the United States is incredibly easy. Now, that doesn't mean it's incredibly beginner-friendly if you're watching this and saying, what country should I play? But it is incredibly easy. And as far as I can tell, if you're the player and you're playing as the United States, unless you do some really questionable things or try out some really crazy strategies, you just can't lose as the United States. That doesn't mean you'll win as the United States. You might, winning and losing, of course, is relative, like all Paradox games. But losing in this case would be to be completely conquered or subjugated by somebody else. And the United States' industrial power is just so ridiculous that I don't think that can happen. And this is true for real life. I mean, if you are one of the few people that think that somehow, Japan was going to come over here and conquer the United States, it just, the industrial output was so one-sided that was never going to happen. And in fact, the Japanese Admiralty was aware of this and was pushing for potential peace very early, even though the army didn't want to do that. And I'll just give you a brief example. By 1944, the United States had produced 20 Essex-class carriers. I believe it's 20. Might be 20 by the beginning of 1945. It doesn't really matter. In the same time period, the Japanese had produced 2 fleet carriers and a handful of escort carriers, but it was completely one-sided in terms of industrial capacity. And this is before Japanese industrial capacity really got destroyed by American bombing. Anyway, that all being said, that was a nice big rant. And this was not a rant to say the United States would have single-handedly won World War II. I'm not going to make that claim. That's completely foolish. But what I wanted to say was, which other country would you guys like to see me play? I think every other country is pretty much in play. I think the Soviet Union might be kind of boring, just because it's huge and, there's lots of options. I think a lot of the other countries have a lot of interesting possibilities. I think France is fascinating compared to its, historical play. The way it did not do so well at the beginning of the war. I think Germany is fascinating, especially if you don't make some of the mistakes that the Germans actually made. I think the British is relatively straightforward. I think Italy is interesting because it's sort of the redheaded stepchild of Germany. Japan is fascinating because I do believe you could potentially win the Pacific War. I don't think that you would actually conquer the United States. So maybe you could in this game. And then there's the other countries, and I don't know if there's one that you guys would be particularly interested in. I'm not going to be playing some of the particularly crappy is not the right word, weak in terms of this game, like Lithuania, Latvia, or Estonia. The Scandinavian countries and the Baltic countries are all sort of, I think, a little bit weak. But if everyone's like, yeah, you should really play Sweden, I would seriously consider it. Ethiopia is really the only African country available to play, and they tend to get their ass kicked right away by Italy, so I'm not sure that's a fantastic idea. The Middle East doesn't usually get involved, but, we could think about that. China is an interesting, although difficult country to play. They usually get their butts kicked by Japan, but I think it is possible to play as China and do well. Of the countries I haven't really spoken much about otherwise, Spain can be pretty interesting. I don't really want to play as any of the American countries beyond even the United States, and the reason is not because any of them are particularly hard or difficult or easy. Like I said, the United States is pretty easy, but some of these other countries I think are also not the worst countries in the world. The main thing is you have to spend a lot of time. This is why I don't think it's beginner friendly, but you have to spend a lot of time understanding the logistics of crossing oceans. And it took me a bit to figure out everything. I understand sort of how it works now. I can do it, but I think if someone was watching this as how do I get into this game, I wouldn't do that. So yes, please leave a comment. Tell me what you think would be the most interesting country to play as. I will consider them. My playthrough will almost certainly begin on the Friday of this week, the end of this week. So this gives you guys some time to comment. I might post another video telling you what leaning towards based on the comments and my own thoughts. I'll tell you right now, like how they're called interesting countries, by the way. I haven't quite figured out the country I'm most interested in, but I'm leaning towards a continental European power, France, Germany, Italy, possibly Spain as a sort of curveball. I tried Austria. That was hard as hell. Not because I tried Austria as trying to be democratic against Germany, and that did not go so well. Anyway, I thank you guys very much for watching this video. Please leave your feedback, and with that all being said, I will see you next time.